Welcome to Let's Talk About Weddings, a podcast designed for couples that are planning a wedding and preparing for marriage. We're your hosts. I'm Jared.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are 6 Day Films. We're honored to sit down each episode with a wedding professional, vendor, or a marriage expert to ask them a simple question. What advice would you give to every couple that's planning a wedding and preparing for marriage?
Some weeks will be super practical. Some weeks will be a little more philosophical. But every week will be incredibly fun as we spend time with our friends, hearing their stories and learning from their wisdom.
All right, here we go.
Let's talk about weddings.
Well, hey friends, we're back with another episode of Let's Talk About Weddings. Today is going to look a little bit different because today we are with the incredible Monica Richard of Mon Ami Events. Monica, thank you so much for coming on and blessing us with your presence and your information and your story and the wisdom that you have to share with our couple. So thank you for willing to come on and do this via Zoom with us today.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we first connected a couple of years ago now at the Sixpence event for Unveiled. How did you get connected with them and doing an event like that?
Our event industry is this big. Indy might be a big city, but I feel like it's a small town, especially in the event world. And good people attract good people, and I think that's how we ended up there, and you ended up there, and it's on the north side, so. I was there, and I feel like we just sort of all gravitated to the same event, and I'm never going to say no to meeting new people and saying hi to good opportunities, and that's how we were there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we skipped ahead a little bit. I skipped ahead a little bit. Tell us a little bit of your story. So you're originally not from Indianapolis, correct? You're from, I think I heard you say New York earlier.
Yes. Native New Yorker. Went to IU, but did not stay here. I worked for Disney for a while and
Nice.
fell in love with a boy who proposed near Beck Chapel because when I was at IU, I said, I'm going to get married there someday. And I did ultimately. But while working at Disney, he also was here in Indiana working. We do joke that he is one of the few people I know who has never not worked for the same company for eternity. He has only had one paycheck his whole life, which is
That's cool.
pretty really cool. Actually, it says a lot about loyalty and love and the kind of person I married. But I went to work for the mouse and absolutely loved it.
Yeah, you love that.
I mean, when I say magical, I don't just mean that in a punny way.
Right.
I learned a lot, and it really shaped who I am as a planner, as a person, the kind of events that I like to create, and the kind of experience that I like to give my couples and their guests. And I don't mean that like in a pixie-filled, glittery way. I mean that from a storytelling way, from a guest service perspective, and from how I treat my couples and their guests. I treat their this is the hot take, but I treat the guest as my client, and I think that's really, really important. And so it taught me a lot. So I went to Orlando and came back here, and worked for several people to learn more about the event industry and to really round out my craft, and eventually opened my own company.
That's awesome.
So I go in my
We were talking with someone. I was talking to someone the other day about they had like a person that kind of walked them through Disney, like a personalized like a VIP sort of tour guide, and how like hard they work to keep those people on staff that are really good at doing their job, and like working with different college programs and different things like that to make that experience so magical, if you will, pun intended or not intended.
Yes, I actually had an adjunct lecturer at I have to get it right, IU Indy,
Okay. Yeah.
old school. Sometimes I say IUPY, IU Indy, and IU Bloomington. And over the years, many of my students have started with a CPRE and then moved on to other roles, which is how I started. I was a college programmer before I went full time, and it is very rewarding when I see my students go to college program and then move on. And some of them still work there, and to see the roles that they have developed into. Um, and some of them work events, some of them have gone on to work for fairy tale weddings, some of them have done incredibly rewarding and fulfilling careers down in Orlando. Um, it means a lot that they are using their degree that I, you know, helped them shape and forge. And
Right.
it is fabulous. I mean, I got back last night and was just there and watching a student for the last 12 years create her career and forge a path that now I have a student who will start there in February, and I know that they'll connect down there. So it is, they have 70,000 cast members in Orlando, and I was a small magical role for a few years. And
Yeah.
but it absolutely was not small to me or
Yeah.
to who I became in my career.
What do you feel like was a holdover for you, or something that you learned there that maybe you didn't learn in school, that you feel like you bring into the wedding industry here in Indianapolis?
This is the hot take that people are shocked I learned, that I will openly say in any interview, any podcast. I said it on a panel uh, just a few months ago. It Disney of all places taught me this. The guest is not always right. It is okay to say no. And I will tell my couples, I will tell you no at some point. Use the word no,
Right.
obviously, but it's the
Sure.
same as a parent telling you no, or when your best friend says, I love you, but I'm going to tell you you're wrong here, right? It is the same philosophy. And, if you go walk into the Magic Kingdom and you're like, can I sleep in Cinderella Castle tonight? They're going to be like, no, right? I mean, they don't say it in those words, but you know that not everything is possible. As magical as it may seem, you're not always going to get every wish that you want to come true. And regardless of what the fairy tale says. And so sometimes it's a budget constraint, or sometimes it's the law.
Hmm.
Like you can't go shooting off fireworks in the middle of a drought, right? So there are reasons that you have to have guidelines or parameters or safety. And so I don't think that people realize that in our job as a full service planner and designer, that I have to say no. And I don't love it. I don't love doing that. But
Right.
eventually it's because I want to be like, oh my gosh, yes, that was the greatest thing ever. And so I'm going to get you to the yes. But the hot take from Disney is they taught me to say no.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, I mean, yeah, that's an incredible. That's not what I was expecting you to say. So, and
It
it's
isn't.
true
It
because
isn't. But
yeah,
I have said it, I mean, for a long time.
yeah,
They taught me that boundaries are incredibly important.
right. That's super cool. So you go to school at IU. You go and work in Orlando for a little bit, with the mouse and the magic. What kind of brought you back to Indy, and what kind of got you? Did you know that you wanted to be in events, post Disney, or is that something that you kind of found your way into?
My degrees in sports marketing and management. I went to work for the Colts. And there is a person named Ray Compton. He is really an icon in the sports event world. And he was like, just get on the ride. And I remember sitting in his office one day and I was like, you put me on Small World and I really went in Space Mountain. Like, and I
Mm,
will never forget that analogy. But he did teach me an event is an event and is an event. There is no difference. A wedding is really no different than a sporting event. One has a ticket, one has an invitation. They all have timelines, they all have safety, they all have risk management, they all have
right.
branding. There are things that there are many similarities. And but I had a wedding in that time. And so and he was here in Indianapolis. And so I started to really fall in love with this city. And I went to work at the venue where I got married, which is not what people would do now. You would absolutely use your degree, and that is where I teach. That is the,
Right.
the course that I help teach. And and so we talk about it in class, and the correct path to take is not the one I took. I am a, I talk about it in class too, as I say, not as I did, right? But my degree didn't even really exist back then.
Mm,
Um, the degree that I teach in, right? It just
right.
didn't. And so I went to work at the Amie, which is a jewel box. I mean, the restoration there is an impeccable juxtaposition of old world and new world, and it looks exactly like it did in 1912. And it's just this iconic. location in our city. And I did a lot of their weddings for many, many, many years. And I planned just remarkably beautiful weddings in this historic landmark hotel. And then I went and was Wolfgang Puck's planner and learned things about the culinary world that would astound you. And it's why I have a kid who's a chef. I think. I mean, Sabrina picking up um, eggs and learning about the pasteurization process with Wolf is a pretty landmark core memory
That
of mine.
that's pretty
Um,
cool.
it is astounding. I mean, there are.
Was
Has
he
anyone
here
here?
or did you have to go somewhere else for that?
Wolf came here,
Okay.
and Wolf had planners, in whatever city that Wolf needed to be in, and he also taught me a lot about color use, which is funny that you would not think, but that is where I learned my absolute love of color and pattern. And um, there is a photographer that's like, "Oh, Monica's got a wedding. Bring on the color,"
Mm.
because I am a big, big, big fan of color and pattern as I sit behind kind of plain walls. And I apologize for that because I just moved in. And what was the first thing I said when we turned on that camera? My wallpaper hasn't been put in yet because we're just sitting in a new house. Yes, he taught me a lot about color because I
That's
came from
interesting.
yeah, I came from Amie, which is this old world, 1913 historic landmark, and I with him was in a blank canvas every single week, every single day, and so every week it was vibrancy or color or um, an Asian flair because he liked a lot of Asian in his food, and so we were having color, or we were experiment with whatever the food was would match the event, and so I learned that from him. I also learned a lot about um, creating an event solely around food. And so I do that now with my couples.
Yeah.
Um, so after a couple years, it was time to launch my own company.
That's incredible. So you have a wide variety of experiences, all on the sort of the luxury high end market with people that have very incredible taste, incredible eyes for detail. Lots of color from and with some pretty big names too, from the sports world to Disney to Wolfgang, and having that you know that level of investment into you. How do you feel like that shaped you as a planner now? I know you mentioned color, but just having those sort of high quality, high level people pour into you over the years, how do you feel like that shaped you?
I have been lucky. We're not going to dispute that. I am very thankful for who
Yeah.
my client been over the years. I'm very excited about who I've been able to help create their wedding days and their families' stories. I do not take any of that for granted. And I always tell my entire team, and I talk about it in class a lot, your next client is always in the room. So treat the guests as the clients, because I think that is incredibly important. When everyone sits down to dinner, look around because someone is looking for where the restroom is, or they don't know where to put their purse, or they forgot to hang up their coat or take a coat check. So you can do it for them. Like look at the guests because
Right.
they have a need, find it, right?
Mm.
Because the minute everyone sits down, someone stands up because they didn't do whatever it is they needed to do. Their creature comforts aren't taken care of, and you need to take care of it for that. Because guests at that level have needs, which doesn't mean that guests at every level don't, because they all do, right?
Right.
What happens when you go to a restaurant? Everyone sits down and someone's like, "Oh, I have two ladies here," right? It happens. You might not say that, Jerry, but you get the point.
Sure.
So I always try to um, be forward thinking like that. And that came from all those years of events that people were treated like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I also learned that I like telling their stories. I like that guests notice we're only serving their favorite beers, their favorite cocktails, their favorite whatever at the bar. And it's not just the house standard beers, right?
Right.
I had a couple this season, actually. They met over COVID. They met entirely virtually. And finally, when they could meet, they would sit at Sun King outside in Carmel because it felt safest. And so they only beers on their um, bars were Sun King beers. And then as it turned out, they don't like cake. Like that's just been all they eat ice cream all the time. It's their thing.
Yeah.
We had this big ice cream bar, but in that window of time, Sun King and Cake Bake did a collab. And I mean, talk about luck, right?
Yeah.
So we did a Sun King Cake Bake beer wall, and we were like, have our cake, but drink it too. And that was their escort
Oh
card.
man,
So they had cake after all. It's just that you could drink it. So
that's incredible.
sometimes the perfect storytelling moment, we already were going to tell their story, but we got to tell it even more beautifully because they didn't have cake. The only cake they had was the one you could cut. So they had a little cake of the cake bake flavored beer cake. I mean, because it was a raspberry cream, and that was the one you
Mm.
got. It was the same flavor as the beer. That was it. So I find that level everybody has a story to tell, regardless of your budget. But you can just sometimes you're telling it not very expensively, and sometimes you get to tell it with incredible cost.
Yeah,
There's
that's
just
incredible.
regardless of the budget, it doesn't. You can always tell a story. There's no
Yeah.
difference.
I love that idea of seeing the event as a story you're telling, or you're telling their story through the event, and those little, it's like, oh, that's a nice touch, or that's next level thinking. I love that. Like, it's like you didn't have to do that. It's not that, it's all, but it's just one more little, nice touch here and nice touch there, and bringing in two of their favorite things that makes their day like uniquely them, and something that they're going to remember and they're going to appreciate. I think that's incredible.
Their
So
guests all knew that. Everybody knew the cake bake.
yeah,
I mean, for the Sun King story, everybody.
yeah,
But by the end, I think everybody realized, oh, we knew they liked ice cream. I don't think everybody knew they didn't like cake. By the end,
yeah,
everybody knew they didn't like it.
yeah. That's super cool. I love that. So let's back up a little bit. So you launched your company. What was the point for you where you're like, okay, this is something that I need to take on. I need to go on my own. And was weddings your main focus at that time? And is it still your main focus?
Yeah, it was always my main focus. It is not the sole thing I do. I love me a mitzvah. Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, you get to take a theme and take it to the next degree of
Yeah,
hype. And I am all for that. They are incredibly fun. It's also such a big deal in a young person's life. And I think that's important to honor. I love that. Um, I actually am right on the cusp of the point where some of my couples have mitzvah aged children, and I think that that's going to be a great moment of joy for me
yeah,
to celebrate with them. Um, I I'm I'm gonna love that. I
yeah,
really that will be a really beautiful moment for me. I've done a lot of siblings. I haven't done a mitzvah of a child of one of my couples, and they're right on that line. But I love a mitzvah. And then there's a few other social occasions that are I think landmark moments
hmm,
in the social world that I enjoy. So I like a party. I don't love the corporate world. It's not necessarily it's not my jam. It's there's not a story. There's not a story. I'm a storyteller. That is
okay,
very esque of me. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah,
That's the magic I like to tell.
yeah. That's incredible. So what is it for you about weddings? In the vein of, you kind of answered this question with the storytelling aspect of it, but is there a favorite part of the process that you love working with couples? Is it the execution of the day? Is it, their face when they see the room or see the experience for the first time? What is it for you that's like, because how long have you been doing weddings?
In the wedding world, we never really tell, but we always say like more than 10 years, right? Like you
More
can't
than 10
really
years.
reveal
Yeah.
more than 10 years. So now that I've revealed like some of my couples have a child that's right around the mitzvah age, I think that that kind of reveals it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've been doing it a while. I
Yeah.
mean, I, my favorite part, I think, is the moment of realization when a couple realizes m I care this sounds weird, but, like, I care more about the wedding than they do, right? Like, and I mean that with all the love in the world. They they know they couldn't possibly imagine it more or as grand or ha ever think of an idea that I'm not going to think because 'cause I've been around the block, right? I've done this. This is not
Right.
my second first rodeo, it's not my second. And I promise each of my families that I will take care of them beyond their wildest expectations. So when they come in and they're gobsmacked, and it's not like 1 plus 1 does not equal 2 in the event world. It's 3. It's their idea, my idea, somebody else's idea. And so we come up with this thing that is so holistically beyond anything that they could have ever imagined. And so when they like, I don't want to say relinquish control, but when they're like, okay, I know that you care in such a deep, deep way that it's just going to be beyond cool, beyond beautiful, beyond imagination,
Yeah.
then it will be like release it and just go let your team just do the thing.
Yeah.
It will be. It'll be far superior. And I had a couple um 3 weeks ago, and they were um one of the grooms was just he was just overwhelmed. He was like, I knew it was going to be, but I never could have imagined it like this. That's my favorite when they come to the realization that like it is just because you're gonna I'm gonna create for you the best florist for you, the best photographer for you, the best venue for you, the best everything for you as a couple.
Mm,
Um, because I want it to be so beyond everything that you could have ever thought of. That's my
that's
dream.
cool. Yeah. It's cool that you have that, and to hear that passion in your voice, and then to see like some of the weddings that you've been a part of, and what you've been able to create. Has that creative side always been in you? Like, where did you grow up as a creative? Because I see you as a creative, like the way that you talk and the way that you see color, the way that you know, pull things together. There's obviously a side of you that's incredibly organized and diligent, and you know has the structure of the day and the flow of the day. But there's also this other creative side that I don't feel like a lot of planners have, that you know is able to pull together all these different elements, to create something that is quite literally magical. Like, how do you see yourself in those different worlds?
I am not a florist. I will never pretend to be a florist, but I can name many, 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 many flowers. But I could never put them in a vase perfectly, right? Or
Right.
could I make a boot if there was an emergency? Could I make a boutonniere? Sure. I've been around boutonnieres for a long time. I could fumble one together. But a florist is not going to hire me on a Saturday to do that. Nor would I want to. On a Saturday, they need to know that I know the load and dock at 3 o'clock to 3:15 belongs to this truck. At 3:16 to 3:24 is this truck, and at 3:25 whatever. That is the nitty gritty that makes that day run with such precision and such execution matters. And a couple right now listening is thinking, why does that matter? And it so does. The logistics side is so wildly important so that their day flows. But I also somehow, I don't know how, I also walk into like, I do travel the world to think creatively or look at things or come back with little treasures to my couples because I'm like, or I go to
Yeah.
going to Disney because it's fun and beautiful, and I wanna look at the latest technology or pretty things or whatever to get creative for my couples, which is why I only take 8 in a year because I want to always be so ahead of the curve on imagination and creativity and beauty and flowers and whatever to come up with the coolest, newest idea. I travel and I go to conferences and I study and I go to horticulture things to learn all this stuff and all of that. I think that's so important. But that is why I also work with different florists different weeks and work with different photographers different weeks and work with different bands each week because you have to be creative. You have to keep rejuvenating yourself and re-energizing yourself. When someone says, who's your favorite florist or who's your favorite photographer, what's your favorite venue? It's not mine. It's my favorite for them. That is
Right.
so important. So important. I
Mm,
don't have a favorite. I mean, it's Fenway Park, but that's not somebody else's favorite, right?
right.
I
Right.
mean, come on. So I think that uh, I I think the answer is you can't do one or the other. You can't be left brain or right brain. You have to be both.
Right.
But I'm an owner and a designer, but I'm not physically making anything.
Yeah. But
This is
you
it
have the
is the
vision and
hardest
you can
job
see
description in
it.
the world. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's incredible. I love that. So let's back up a little bit because you brought up an interesting point. So if you're from New York, how did you become a Red
The biggest
Sox
Red
fan.
Sox fan in the world because
Yeah.
my whole family's from Boston.
Okay. Okay. So they moved into New York before you came along, and they indoctrinated you into the Red Sox family, huh?
Yeah, really, really big Red Sox fan. I guess, but I am a huge Pacers fan, and I think that's because it was like approved. I mean, I grew up a Celtics fan, but it was
Right, right.
approved because of Larry. That was allowed, I guess.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
connection there. Yeah.
I will say, I was in Boston during finals, and my husband was wearing Pacer stuff like all the time that week, everywhere we went. And I mean, God, I love Boston. The vibe of that city is so great. They are just a very cool city.
Mhm.
They were absolutely rooting for the Pacers. Like
Oh
they
yeah.
were like, we didn't win it, please go do this. Like they had absolutely go Pacers mentality, attitude, fierceness. I appreciated that, and I that's one of the reasons I love Boston.
That's
They're
cool.
absolute jerks and absolute lovable, affable people at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a vibe. There's nothing not to love. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually grew up a Celtics fan. I'm from Louisiana, but I grew up a Celtics fan because when I was a kid, they got Ray Allen, and I was a big
Oh,
Ray Allen fan. So like whenever
yeah.
him and Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett came together, I was like, "Yep, that's my team." Like there's no
Yes.
like New Orleans had the Jazz at the time, and they were a train wreck. So I was like, I'm not wasting my time with them. These guys, this is where it's at. So that's funny though.
Yeah.
Um,
I was a Larry fan, and so it worked. And then
yeah,
and it still works. So
yeah,
yes. But
that's
and this
incredible.
mhm.
Yeah, that's no, one more Hoosier tie for you there. So,
one
which
like a
is which is
100%.
yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Thank you so much for listening to the Let's Talk About Weddings podcast. It truly means the world to us, and we hope you find it helpful as you plan your wedding and prepare for marriage. Even with all the great advice you're getting from different wedding pros, we know that every couple still has the same problem no matter who they are, what their wedding day looks like, or how much time you spend planning. It's the blur. Blur is the enemy. You spend all this time, energy, and money creating a beautiful day, and it literally flies by. That's where we come in. At 6 Day Films, we create timeless cinematic highlight films that tell your story and slow down the blur. If you'd like to chat about us joining your wedding day, please visit our website, 6dayfilms.com. That's the number 6, THDAYFILMS.com. To find out more information, check out a few of our films, and fill out the contact form. Now, let's get back to our conversation. So, a part of this podcast that we always like to do is, especially with people like yourself who have been around the block a few times, seen a lot of incredible weddings,
Around
planned a
the
lot of.
block. Ouch.
That you said that. Oh, okay,
It's your I'm teasing.
I know. I was like, well, I didn't want to say how many years, but I know how when a mitzvah happens. So, but someone that's been in the industry for some time and has seen a lot of incredible weddings and planned them, and handheld couples from the start to the finish, the execution of their day. If you could give some advice to couples that are in that process of planning a wedding and preparing for marriage, what would you say to them? Because as you mentioned earlier, like for your full service company, you only take on a select number of weddings per year. So, this is going to reach more couples that maybe get to work with you. But with your advice, with your wisdom, what would you say to them?
I had two.
Okay.
First, I already alluded to one of them. Trust your professionals. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they want what is best for you in every capacity. They're not going to steer you into a direction that they don't fully believe in. And they they've seen it, they've experienced it. Sometimes you may think that they're giving you some piece of advice because they're trying to upsell you or they're trying to sell you
Right.
something. It is not necessarily for that reason. There are pieces of advice that don't cost a thing, and there are sometimes pieces of advice that sound more expensive. It isn't necessarily a cost reason. I understand people make decisions for a myriad of reasons,
Mm-hmm.
not always budget related. I get that. But if your professional team is giving you a piece of advice, ask them, what would you do? You might not even have to. They're telling you the advice for a reason. Trust that. Trust them because they are the ones who are going to have to execute whatever it is you want. And they're giving it to you soundly.
Yeah.
because they're the ones who are going to watch your guests experience this. And they're the ones who are going to have to fix whatever the issue might end up being. The other piece of advice is have fun with it. Show personality. Don't just pick up a Pinterest board or an Instagram and be like, make this because it's
Yeah.
already been done, right?
Right.
If you've seen it, so have your guests, so have all your bridesmaids, so is your mom's best friend, so have all the people. Make it entirely yours. I have had many times over people completely clone weddings I've done. And it might seem really flattering, but it's not. It isn't. I mean, I had a wedding this year that was completely cloned in the same venue from a wedding the last year. Last year's client was completely cloned this year. She was devastated. That is not flattering to her. It is not
Mm.
flattering. But the same florist actually did it. She was like, are you kidding? Like that I know I'm supposed to be flattered, but I'm actually really heartbroken. I worked so hard and there was a reason behind every single decision because it was hers. Everything was
Right.
her. Make it yours. If you two love to read, do something with books. If you two are going to Italy or could never afford to go to Italy, serve Italian food or make only do only Italian wines or whatever. Like
Yeah.
you could always find a way to make it personal, right? If your first date was SpaghettiOs because that's all you could do, serve SpaghettiOs as your late night snack. Do you want to know how hard McDonald's goes as a late night snack? I had an incredible destination wedding in Charleston, but when that McDonald's came, oh my
People
God.
were
And he was
pumped.
he's an offensive lineman for Georgia. And I've never seen, I mean, those people downed it. Like his O line can eat and drink. But my gosh. And he was so cute because he like had it on a big tray and he came dancing in with them. 300 hamburgers gone in seconds. I don't think 300 hamburgers, 300 fries was enough, but because I didn't really compute that situation
Yeah.
very well. But I mean, people love that. But the reason they did McDonald's was because she almost missed their engagement because she had to get McDonald's because she was hangry. So that was like a whole storyline. Their friends all knew it. So they had to get McDonald's
Oh,
as
that's
part of their
cool.
story. It was such a great story. And everyone knew the
Yeah.
story of how she almost missed their engagement because they had to take a gondola to the top of where they were going. And they almost missed it because she had to get her McDonald's. So there's always a way to make it personal. Always. Tell your story. Tell your story. That
So
is so important.
I love that concept and that idea. What would you say to the people that are like, I'm just not that creative, or we don't have a story to tell? Like, and obviously, I know you have strong convictions
You
about
do.
that, but
Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. Everyone.
yeah.
Ask your friends. Ask your friends. Ask the people in your family. When you think of us, what do you think of? What's the food we always eat?
Mm.
Where did we go on our first date? Actually, I have one that um they didn't they were so studious. They are so brilliant. They kind of joked about that. They're like, we don't have a story. We're nerds. We're doctors. We
Right.
don't have time for science. They literally served cookies of where they met on their first date. And I was
Oh,
like,
that's
oh,
cool.
okay, cool, fine. But because they kind of made the joke of they don't have time to have personalities. All they do is study, 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 go become doctors, and they like literally just finish their residency. I'm like, you have a story, like you
Right.
do. You can't. I mean, you're surviving, going through. People on a residency don't have time. Like that kind
Right.
of it's their story,
Right.
honestly. But they do, and so that was served as the dessert at their rehearsal dinner. They had a story. They just kind of made the joke that they didn't. And that was the dessert on their rehearsal dinner night on the way to the welcome party. But
Mm.
everyone has something. You do. You do. It's there. Just ask the people who love you. They're going to tell you something.
Yeah. I
You
love
have
that.
something. And let me
Yeah.
tell you, the cookies from the location of their first date was nothing, like $1.50. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
has something you do.
Yeah. I love that idea too of like it's not about how much money you have to spend or not to spend or whatever. There's a way that you can curtail this to make it unique to tell a certain aspect and something that kind of invites them into the reason that you're there that day. I mean, these little things add up to the whole reason, the ceremony is sort of the apex of the day, but it's, these little things along the way that led up to that moment of this, this next story or this next journey together. And as a videographer, as a storyteller, that's some of my favorite couples to work with that go, this is important to us. And so having little details, little shots like that within there that mean something to them, and how, you know, they love books, or they love certain things, or love certain aspects of their story really come to life when you get to tie these things, that they're not just a couple that decided to get married on a random Saturday in the fall. Like, they have this whole journey that led them up into this moment. And so as storytellers, as videographers, trying to find that along the way and help bring that out of them, help them understand, like, you know, this is an incredible love story that we get to tell and you get to have forever. That's kind of the piece that we really enjoy doing and love doing, and serving clients in that way. So, well, thank
I
you for
I
that.
have so you're welcome. So many of my couples, I mean, the percentage is high, so high now. The couples who meet on various apps. One of my
Mm,
couples, the napkins throughout the night were their Bumble conversations.
that's
Like,
incredible. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
super funny.
daring,
Yeah,
but they were,
maybe not for everybody, but yeah.
well, it's so commonplace now, but they were
Yeah,
screenshots of their Bumble conversations. This is really
that's
cool.
creative. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's super
Yeah,
creative. And do
yeah,
you,
and
when with a couple like that, did you help them craft that idea, or like, hey, what if we did, like, where did they just come up with that? Because I'm really, because that is super creative.
I loved it. They actually had the screenshot of their very first one, which I don't know who got it. Like, that's forward thinking, honestly, for whoever got the first one. And they were like, we don't know what to do with it. And the stationery person was like, let's make it your napkins. How many do you have? And they went back and found some favorite ones throughout the history. And we kind of just had them on like cocktail hour and then dinner and then dancing, dessert.
That's
Like,
super
so
cool.
we put them in piles so people could go through there. It was cool. Real
That's
cool.
awesome. That's super
Mhm.
cool.
But you could do the same with pictures or, like,
Right.
everybody has something. It doesn't cost a lot to do anything to tell a story. There's always ways to tell a story. Make it personal and trust your professional team. The 2 easiest pieces of advice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
What are some of your practical tips that you would just say, hey, as you're thinking through your day or your timeline, what's something that you try to help every couple navigate that, like, maybe would be surprising to some couples that they just haven't thought through, or maybe they don't always hear about?
No one ever allocates enough time, like, like, everything takes longer than you know that it should, right? So I always work with the photography team and film team, like, collectively, for that. I also, people forget, if you are getting ready, not, how do I say this? You're getting ready, not where the wedding is taking place, the stuff, meaning the clothes they showed up in, the change of, like, your makeup stuff, your stuff has to go somewhere if it's not in the
Mm-hmm.
hotel. So
Yeah.
it's like, "What do we do with my stuff now?" They have stuff, and they don't know where to put it. You have to logistically think, what happened to whatever they wore there and all their stuff. You gotta think about that. Um, and where's it going? When is it going there? What time is that room getting cleaned up? Because the last thing a wedding party member wants to do after dancing is clean that up.
Right.
It
Yeah.
is. And you have to allocate time for that to happen. It could be during first look. I mean, it could be, and you could be like, okay, everyone take your stuff and go put it up in the hotel room, or take your stuff and we're putting it here so that it's all cleaned up. So when you leave tonight, it's at coat check, or it's at whatever, it's already in your car, or it's wherever it is supposed to be, right? But you have to think it through, because after dancing is not when they're thinking about that.
Right.
And
Yeah,
if
and it's
and
just those practical things that you just, like, that's not on anyone's, like, planning sheet, as
no,
the,
no,
that's not on any, like, anything they're pulling off of Pinterest of, like, your checklist of your wedding to do. But I think,
no,
yeah, it is incredibly, and how many times have we been in the room with people that are just finished getting ready, and you have bridesmaids with all this stuff, and they're like, we have to get out of this room, I'm not really sure where this goes. Does this go in the car? It's like, yeah, that's absolutely true. I
yeah,
feel like every
they don't
wedding
think
has to
about
have a
the
plan for
stuff.
that. Yeah,
Right. You
that's
have
great.
to, and it doesn't take 10 minutes. It takes like 30 to get it where it's gotta go and get the wedding party back where they need to be. But you have to build in time to do it. And I always make a succinct wedding party checklist. And I'm always like, wedding party, take your stuff, put it here. meet back here for photos.
Right.
But it takes longer than people think it does.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you only take on a certain amount of weddings per year. When a couple wants to work with you, what does that process look like for them if they're going to work with Monami events?
I would love to get to know them. We have an interview. I once had a couple say this years ago, and I thought, oh my gosh, that is so flattering. They said, we would love to work with you if you want to work with us. And they were like, we felt like we were being interviewed, and we felt like it was a reciprocal interview. And that was so flattering. And I guess it is kind of a two-way conversation. I want to interview them as much as they want to interview me, because we do get to really know each other. I mean, we're going to talk about everything. Obviously, religion, some component, and budget, family dynamics, and all the wedding details, because there is a huge level of trust, which is why I only take a few clients a year. Um, if I am traveling to whatever, if they love Italy and I'm traveling to Italy, might bring something home for their wedding that they don't know about, and it's a fun little surprise on their table or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been known to bring home a suitcase from Paris for a couple. So I want it to be a very, very intimate, deep relationship. And over the years, I have gotten to know couples and their wedding parties so well. I've had couples, friends say, okay, I may not have the wedding budget to work with you, or I've already planned a lot of things. Can you just come help me on the wedding day? And I think because that relationship is so deep and so long, and it doesn't necessarily need long months. I mean, I've planned very, very, very elaborate weddings in a very short time.
Yeah.
Um, but it is a very intimate relationship. But I've had
Hmm.
people ask that question, and I don't know that that's necessarily something that our firm is as excited about. So we built another company that only does day of. I hate that term. I don't love it. I know that's not an industry term, but it is what couples asked. And so we decided that our assistants were really good at writing timelines, helping out the wedding party, making sure the professional teams knew where to be, how to set up, all the things that I would do day of, right?
Hmm.
And so that side of the company was born. And so we have a whole other company that only does, I don't like the term, day of. And so essentially they help couples from 6 months out on. And at about 6 months out, they'll, have a touch point call and check in, and here's what you need to do today. Here's what you need to, every month. Here's what you need to do this month. Here's what you need
Yeah.
to do this month. And at like 8 weeks in, they fully dived in and really help the same way that I would from
Mm.
8 weeks out. And do all the things that we would do, timelines, layouts, um, all the things that we would do the weekend of. And that way they essentially have 40 weeks of availability, you
Yeah.
know?
I
It's
love
been
that.
great. Yeah. So we had to think of a fun name, Mon Ami already was taken, my friend. So, Le Jour du Mariage was born, which literally translates to the wedding day. And
I love that.
so so the team is all of my assistants. It's great. It's great that actually, it's fun because on the wedding weekend, it's all of the same professionals that I have, but they know every single venue. They know all the professionals. They know all the team members. You've experienced it,
Yeah.
and all the venues have. And even this weekend, they're at a venue that there's times the venues are like, wait, oh, okay, it's everybody Bonacker. I got it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool.
At one this weekend, it's the same thing. And sometimes the venue will ask me a question. I'm like, I'm not the boss this weekend. I just own the company. This is who you have to email.
That's awesome. I love that.
Mhm.
And I love that that kind of opens you up to you get to do what you love to do, but you also lend your skills and your knowledge and the systems that you've built to people that maybe either can't afford that or don't need that or don't want that. So they still get that a similar experience and all of that wisdom poured into their day. But you don't lose sight of your first love, which is the complete experience and you getting to craft that. But from my personal experience, typically working with in the luxury market, which is would you say that's your demographic that you're going over after is luxury
Yes.
typically? Um, it has always felt like, and maybe I've just gotten a different hand. that friendship and intimate relationships are not necessarily wanted between client and vendor. It seems like there's like this like divide almost of like the vendors are over here and the clients don't actually have a big hand in this. Maybe this is just a videography specific thing. But it seems like you're coming at this at a completely different angle than other luxury planners that I've worked with before of we want this is an intimate thing that we're building together. Can you speak to that? Is that a question you'd feel comfortable answering? Does that question make sense?
It makes sense. I am very close to an overwhelming percentage of my calls. Very
Yeah.
close. Uh, there have been um, many times that I know the sibling is getting proposed to before they do, um, because that relationship with that family is so close.
Yeah.
There was um, one family that I had done so many weddings with that we were planning another wedding when my previous couple was like, well, they were on a FaceTime with the current couple. And they were
Mm-hmm.
like, well, you were there when we got married, so let's find out. And I literally found out the gender of their child at the same time as both sets of grandparents. And
That's
listen,
awesome.
we it is a beautiful and wonderful, wonderful time with these families. Um, I am traveling next week to Europe for almost a month. I will see two of them while I'm there because we overlap.
Yeah.
I it matters to me, and when it isn't like that, I take it so personally.
Mm,
I
right.
shouldn't, but I'm
Right.
like, I only take 8. Did I waste my time? Like I self check, right? Um, but sometimes it is a business transaction, and I hate that, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened? What happened? What did I do wrong? Like, I'll self check it.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong, right? And it might only happen once every 3 or 4 years, but I will self doubt for months. Like, what did I do wrong? Did I miss something in the interview? What did I do? And I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. It sometimes just is a business, and I don't love that because I
Yeah.
take it so very personally because I have my couples fill out a questionnaire that is pages and pages and pages long. Like, what are you allergic to? Where did you go on your first date? What are your favorite foods? Like questions that I mean, that's just very, very top level stuff. We get very, very deep because how can I make their wedding and not look like a Pinterest board?
Right.
It's going to be a Pinterest board, but for somebody else, like I want it to be so deeply personal so that I can come up with the cake, bake, beer garden, Sun King wall, right? Like I gotta come up with something so very cool for them. Um, and if I didn't have that kind of relationship, it wouldn't be right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I get really, really close to them.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we love about destination weddings specifically is that you get to spend so much extra time with the couple. You get to, you're there with them for a few days. And so almost every destination wedding we've done, like we have continued friendships on. Like we just were racing go-karts with a couple we went to France with a couple years ago. Like we just
Yes,
continue. And that's what I'm like, that's what I love about. And so as we started getting closer to the luxury market, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If there's not going to be like a relational equity into this, if it doesn't feel like, we're friends at the end of this, like, then I'm not sure that that's the right market for us to go after. You know what I mean? So I was like, it kind of gives me as someone that's like trying to lean into that a little bit more, a little bit of hope of like, no, that can still be a thing. It's not always a business transaction. It's not just this like you perform this service and you give us the video and that's the end of the discussion. And sometimes it is like that, but I love that when it's like, you create something for them because especially as storytellers, like this is the thing that they're going to get to hold on to for the rest of their lives is this video or these photos or these memories that you're pulling together. And when it feels like it's just like a box that they're checking off of a vendor that just got, it's like, oh, that is not like life-giving is what I want it to be.
it is um, very personal for me.
Well, thank you for this incredible time that you've been so generous to give us. If someone is wanting to work with you and one of your companies, how would they connect with you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
my website, of course, has all my contact information. And everyone likes a good old Instagram. They has pretty pictures, good reels, all the things so you can see truly how unique and special our couples are. And I think it also speaks a little bit to how we feel about our couples, which I
Mm.
have a look into. I think it does a lot of the storytelling for us. And our Insta is Mon Ami Events. So I think that gets you a little bit of the flavor there. Um, and and Le Jours is Le Jour du Mariage. So you got to have a French lesson there a little bit.
Yeah.
So
We'll put it in the link below, and we'll tag it on
yes,
Instagram so people
yes,
can find it.
yes. But I think you can see one of the things that I think I'm most proud of. It's not curated. It's very authentic. I mean, you're gonna see wildly different looking weddings from one week to the next or one image to the next because that's who our clients are and that's who our couples are. It's their story. It's not, you're not going to see, 8 white weddings in a row or 8 pink weddings in a row because that's not
Yeah.
who we don't do that. You're going to see
Yeah.
a future wedding. You're going to see um, bright red. You're going to see two grooms. You're going to see who hires us and who we like to
Yeah.
work with. We like to work with
Yeah.
beautiful people who are very much in love.
Yeah. I love that you have a niche, but it's not like a traditional niche in the sense of like we only do X, Y, and Z type things. Like your thing that you're really digging down into is that experience and that story. And then you find the other great people that you work with around the country and around the city to pull in that this photographer is really what you want to go for because they're going to really show the colors the way that you want to, or this kind of storytelling is what you need, so this is the kind of videographer that you're going to want, and the band and all that stuff. And so I love that you're not reinventing the wheel, but you're bringing all of these things in to create this beautiful collage of every wedding that is completely unique, and like the way that you get to know your couples and the way that you understand them and what they're looking for. I think it just says a lot about you as a creative, as a planner, and as a person. So again, thank you for coming on and spending some time with us. And yeah, we're just grateful that you're willing to do this.
It means a lot to hear what other people think of our couples and this memories that we create for them. So that's very, very flattering that you just said that because um, I don't like to work with the same people overly often.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God, I got a little overwhelmed when you said that because it means a lot to me that other people notice how hard I try to um, feel my couples or feel heard in their planning process.
Yeah.
Really important to me. So I got a little overwhelmed by that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Means a lot.
You're welcome. Well, thank you again. Thanks for being on.